In 177 AD, Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth. He commanded the largest army in the world. He ruled over 70 million people. And yet, people still talked. Critics whispered. Senators schemed. His own generals doubted him. And Marcus Aurelius didn't care. Not because he was arrogant. Because he understood something most people never figure out. He wrote it in his private journal, words never meant to be read by anyone else: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That one line contains everything. Most of us live our entire lives as prisoners. Not locked behind bars, but imprisoned by something far more invisible and far more dangerous. The opinions of other people. We wake up replaying what someone said yesterday. We overthink a text message before sending it. We shrink ourselves in rooms and make life-altering decisions based on what we imagine other people might think of us. And here is the brutal truth: most of those people aren't even thinking about you. They are too busy worrying about what you think of them. Today, using the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, the same philosophy that carried Marcus Aurelius through war, plague, betrayal, and political chaos, we are going to walk through exactly how to stop giving your power away to the opinions of others. Not in theory. In practice. Stay until the end. The final principle is the one that changes everything. The foundation, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, born a slave, who became one of the greatest philosophers in history, built his entire teaching around one idea. He called it the dichotomy of control. There are two categories of things in your life. Things inside your control. And things outside your control. That is the entire list. Inside your control, your thoughts, your choices, your effort, your response to what happens to you. Outside your control, other people's words, other people's actions, other people's opinions of you. Read that second list again. Every single item on it is something most people spend enormous energy trying to manage. We perform for audiences that aren't even watching. We exhaust ourselves chasing approval from people who will change their minds tomorrow. Epictetus said it plainly: seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish. Wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. The moment you truly accept, not just intellectually, but in your bones, that other people's opinions of you are entirely outside your control, the weight lifts. Because you stop fighting a battle that was never yours to fight. This is not indifference. This is clarity. You are redirecting your energy from the uncontrollable to the controllable. From what they think to what you do. From their judgment to your character. That is where your power lives. That is where it has always lived. Why it's so hard? If the logic is that simple, why do so many capable people still get consumed by the opinions of others? Why does one negative comment ruin an entire afternoon? The answer goes deeper than habit. Human beings are social creatures. For most of our history, belonging to a group was survival. Being rejected by the tribe didn't just hurt, it killed. So our brains evolved to care intensely about social approval. This isn't weakness. It is ancient programming running on modern hardware. But the world has changed. That ancient software has not updated. Your brain still treats social rejection like a physical threat. It still floods you with stress hormones when someone criticizes you. Seneca saw this clearly 2,000 years ago. He wrote, "It is not that I am brave, but that I know what is not worth fearing." Disapproval cannot take your health. It cannot take your character. It cannot take your choices. It is noise, sometimes loud, sometimes persistent, but ultimately harmless noise. The Stoics trained themselves to see it as such. Not through willpower alone. Through daily discipline of the mind. And that training is available to you right now. Practice 1. Know yourself so thoroughly that outside opinions lose their grip. Most people have only a surface-level relationship with themselves. They know their preferences and habits. But they don't know their values, not really. They haven't sat with the hard questions. What do I stand for? What kind of person am I becoming? What would I do if no one was watching? When you don't have clear answers, you become dependent on external feedback to define yourself. Other people's approval becomes a substitute for self-knowledge. Marcus Aurelius spent years in private reflection. The Meditations, his private journal, is a record of a man interrogating himself. Holding his own character up to the light. Asking again and again, am I acting with virtue? Am I living according to my values? Not, am I being praised? When you know yourself that deeply, criticism from others becomes just data. You assess it rationally. Does this have merit? Is there something true here I can learn from? If yes, take the lesson, leave the emotion. If no, release it. It has no jurisdiction over you. A man who knows himself cannot be shaken by someone else's opinion of him. Because he isn't relying on that opinion to know who he is. Practice 2. Stop performing. Start living. Watch how people move through social situations. The careful word choices. The laughter that comes a beat too fast. The opinions that shift depending on who's in the room. Most people are performing constantly. They have built an identity around what others expect, and they maintain that performance with exhausting consistency. Epictetus had no patience for this. He wrote, "If you wish to be a writer, write. Be the thing, don't perform the thing." Here is a question worth sitting with. If you knew, with absolute certainty, that no one would ever find out what you did or how you lived, would you live differently? Would you pursue something you've been quietly abandoning because you're afraid of how it looks? That gap, between the life you'd live in private and the life you're living in public, that gap is the cost of caring too much about other people's opinions. That gap is where your unlived life is waiting. Stoicism doesn't call you to burn every bridge. It calls you to integrity, to alignment between your inner values and your outer actions. When you have that alignment, the performance falls away. You stop needing approval because you're already living in a way that satisfies something deeper than approval. Practice 3. Reframe criticism as information, not verdict. When someone criticizes you, your brain's first instinct is to treat it as a threat. You go defensive or you turn inward and begin questioning yourself. Neither response is useful. The Stoics had a different protocol. When faced with criticism, they asked one question: is there truth in this? Not, is this delivered kindly? Not, does this person like me? Simply, is there truth in this? If yes, take the lesson. Most people pay for honest feedback with time, money, or painful experience. Someone handing you a hard truth is doing you a favor, even when it doesn't feel like one. If no, consider the source. People criticize others for many reasons that have nothing to do with the person being criticized. From insecurity. From envy. From their own unresolved pain. From a bad day that has nothing to do with you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look things in the face and know them for what they are." Look criticism in the face. Assess it honestly. Take what is useful. Release the rest. This is not arrogance, this is discernment. Practice 4. Remember that everything is temporary. One of the most powerful Stoic exercises is called memento mori, remember that you will die. The Stoics didn't treat this as morbid. They treated it as clarifying. When you hold your mortality clearly in your mind, the opinions of others immediately shrink. The person whose approval you've been chasing will also be gone. Their opinion, the one quietly running your decisions, is temporary. Fleeting. In the vast span of time, it barely registers. Seneca wrote, "It is not that life is short. It is that we waste so much of it." How much of your life have you spent managing other people's perceptions of you? How many decisions have you avoided because of what someone might think? Every moment spent in that prison is a moment not spent actually living. Not spent pursuing what genuinely matters. Not spent becoming who you are capable of becoming. Memento mori is not about despair. It is about urgency. You have one life. Your time is finite. Spending it on the uncontrollable opinions of others is a form of waste the Stoics consider genuinely tragic. The final practice, replace the need for approval with the pursuit of virtue. This is the one most people never hear, and it is the most important of all. The reason caring about opinions is so hard to shake is that it fulfills a real need. Human beings need a standard to measure themselves against. We need to know we are on the right track. And when we don't have an internal standard, we borrow one from the people around us. We use their approval as a compass. The Stoics solved this by replacing that external compass with something internal: virtue, wisdom, courage, temperance, justice. These were the 4 Stoic virtues, the 4 measures by which a Stoic evaluated their own life. Not by wealth. Not by status. Not by the opinions of others. By character. When Marcus Aurelius faced criticism, he did not ask, "What do they think of me?" He asked, "Did I act wisely? Did I act with courage? Did I act with justice?" If the answer was yes, the criticism was irrelevant. If the answer was no, the criticism wasn't the problem. His own failure to live virtuously was the problem. This is the shift that changes everything. When you have a clear internal standard, when you know exactly what you value and you measure yourself against that, the opinions of others simply lose their authority. Not because you stop caring about people, but because you stop needing them to tell you who you are. You become, as the Stoics would say, undefeatable. Not because nothing can touch you, but because nothing external can move you off your own foundation. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire for nearly 2 decades. He faced enemies on the battlefield and enemies in his own court. He buried children. He survived plague. He endured betrayal from people he trusted. And through all of it, he returned to the same truth, again and again. You have power over your mind, not outside events. That power is yours right now. It does not require wealth, status, or circumstances to change. It requires only a decision to stop outsourcing your self-worth to people who were never qualified to hold it in the first place. Know yourself. Live with integrity. Assess criticism with reason. Remember your time is limited. And measure yourself by your character, not by their approval. That is how the Stoics lived. That is how you become unshakable. If this video gave you something, subscribe and stay with us. There is more where this came from.